Welcome to the Daughter Podcast, where dads come to talk, grow, and thrive. I'm your host, Oscar, and this is a space for men who are committed to becoming stronger, more mindful, and more present, especially in the lives of their daughters. Fatherhood is a journey of growth. Each conversation on this podcast is a chance to learn, reflect, and level up as a dad and as a man. Whether you're a brand new father or deep into the teenage years, we're here to support each other through every stage. Being daughter means embracing the lessons our daughters are continuously teaching us and using them to become better. We challenge current misconceptions of masculinity and lead with strength, compassion, and intention, building stronger relationships and lasting memories along the way. This show is for everybody who's ready to show up, not as a perfect parent, but as a growing one. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Daughter Podcast. I am your host, Oscar, the local growing girl dad. And today I have an awesome guest. Tyler McAdams joins me from Inspiring Father. And I am super excited to talk to him and get some of that wisdom dropped on us. He's been doing a lot of work. He's popping up everywhere in my social media, which tells me he's putting in a lot of effort because I know how that goes. So Tyler, man, how are you?
I'm great, man. It's been a good start to my day. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to be here. You're doing phenomenal things yourself, man. You're growing, doing amazing things and being consistent. So I'd love to see that too. I'd love to support you on your journey as well.
Thank you,
So
sir. I think we're on a similar trajectory, right? We're building this thing so that we can put information out for fathers to hopefully curve that learning to make it a little bit easier, right? You and I
yeah,
grew up, we
yeah,
didn't have any of this. We're putting that out and someone is taking it, putting it in their pocket, using it, and having not necessarily an easier go, but maybe a smoother path.
yeah. I mean, learn from us, our experiences going through fatherhood and handling different things with our daughters. We all have our challenges as fathers, but understanding
Right.
the importance of being fathered is the biggest thing, especially to girls and daughters as well. I think that's
Right.
that we are such a vital part to their lives. And I think they deserve, I think when they have a good father and a role model in their life, they're just gonna it's setting them up for better success rate than most, when fathers aren't present. So
Right.
I feel strongly about that's a huge key part, knowing through my experience of relationships I've been in and their struggles with their fathers. I think knowing that from that end and how much struggle they have within themselves of insecurities and confidence levels. I think it's so important. That's why I put so much emphasis on my daughters and being in their lives, being and telling how much I love them and all those other things. So, man, I love that you focus on daughters. I think it's a huge thing for us fathers to remember that we are a very vital piece to their lives.
Well, I focus on daughters because that's the hand I've been given, brother. So,
Yeah, you're giving the daughters, man. You're a dad girl through and through.
yeah, I'm fully daughtered here, and I mean, ultimately, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm building this ship as we are going on the water, and so it's nice to have you here to get your perspective because you have a slightly different perspective, correct? Because you have a son. So before we get started on all this stuff, give us a little bit about Adam. Give us a little bit of background about you, your kids, and what brought you essentially to the Inspiring
Yeah,
Father.
man. I got 4 kids. I got a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a year and a half. 3 of them were when I was married. I got divorced 3 years ago after being married for 10 years. So it was great experience. Really, I'm blessed to have my 3 children. And recently I had my year-and-a-half-year-old, and she's been through a lot. I haven't really told her story too much, where she was in the hospital for 2.5 months, born with gastroschisis. So one of the reasons I created this brand as fathers, because I think, and I haven't really touched on it on my page, but for her, born with that, it's changed my life in a lot of ways. She's doing amazing. She's growing. She's a happy girl, but the first year of her life has been rocky in a lot of ways, not knowing what's going on. So it's changed me as a father, even though I'm not together with her mother at this time. We're still good co-parenting, and because I want to make sure I'm in her life, my daughter's life, with everything she's gone through. She's already had it hard enough. So
Yeah.
my biggest thing, the reason I started this, I've always asked myself this question, and I've been told that I'm a really good father because I'm just present with my kids. I don't take that lightly. I really focus on that because I know growing up, my father, at 8 years old, my biological father, he left He doesn't even consider me his son at all. Like,
Mm.
doesn't even consider my sister and I his kids. Um, and so that's always been on my head of like, how is that even possible for a
Right.
father to leave their kids? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
And why would you not even want to have a relationship with your child? So
Right.
it's always been a question mark. I mean, I don't really need to talk to him or anything like that. It's not an answer I really need from him directly, but
Right.
it's always put the emphasis on me that I really, at a young age, I've always wanted a family and kids and being a dad, like that, business owner, all those things, which I've become. I've built my life around my kids. That's something I think Deion Sanders has said that mention one time. He's like, he built his life around his kids and making sure his schedule is flexible to where he's around his children. I think that's
Mm.
similar to what I've done, to where I've focused, at every event. I'm not at every single one. I've had to miss a few times with doctor's appointments or conflicting schedules, but
Mhm.
98% of it, I'm there. I'm always at my kids' sporting events, trying to get into coaching if I could, whatever I can. So I try to be as present and focused on them as possible, because at the end of the day, I want them to know that they had a role model to look up to, and a good father that they could say, at the end of the day, he did a damn good job. That's my goal. I think a lot of it had to do with my childhood growing up, and the reason why fatherhood has been so much of importance to me is
Mhm.
because of that scenario that I've gone through. And it's affected me in different ways. Now I had a stepfather and I learned a lot from him, but it wasn't
Yes.
the bond wasn't there as closely as him. I was more close with my mom, and I still am to this day. So
Mhm.
I think the feminine side, kind of influenced me as well to become that nurturing type person, which I'm grateful for, because I think, as I mentioned, fatherhood is a very vital piece to
Yeah.
being in children's lives and our kids' lives. I think at the end of the day, knowing they have that blanket of guidance to fall back
Mhm.
on when they struggle in life, especially our daughters, it's a huge thing, man. I think that's why I started this page and this community, this brand, because I wanted to put out there not only for fathers to understand the importance of us showing up, but
Mhm.
also to work on their mental health and work on themselves every day, getting stronger, getting just better. 1% every day, it's all matters. We all go through ups and downs.
Right.
Life's gonna do that to you, right? We're all going to hit a rocky point, and I have personally the past couple of years. I've hit a
Yeah.
rocky point in my life, and it's been a flow. So I've had to endure a lot of struggles. Being a single father right now, it gets lonely at times. You know what I mean? But I have to focus on what I can control
Yeah.
within myself, and that's really me. I can only focus on my side. You got to read a lot. You got to learn. You got to keep learning. You got to keep trying things. You got to keep building things the best you can. You can't just
Yeah.
sit there and just wallow in your sorrows, man. Because at the end of the day, we all have them. Even as a married guy, you have struggles. I'm sure, man.
Yeah.
We all do. I mean, I was there the same when I was married in a
Right.
relationship. We all go through those battles. Life kicks you in the face sometimes, but I think
Yeah.
I just wanted to impact some people, man.
Yeah.
That's my ultimate goal. I want to impact more men, more people in general, even women. If I can impact women too, great. I mean,
Yeah.
just I want to impact as many people because I feel like that was what God has told me to do.
Yeah.
I've been called to do this. I've always been in situations where I've been a leader and put in that leadership role. I'm not a perfect leader by any stretch, but I'm growing and continuing to
Right.
learn and get outside of my boundaries and comfort zones. And I think that's the key to constantly tell yourself and push yourself to new heights one way or another, man. So
Right.
that's kind of where I'm at, man. That's a summary of where I've started this journey, and I'm excited to branch out and see where it goes. I'm looking to maybe get into some speaking engagements down the road, build the podcast side of things that I know we'll talk about, but I'm trying to get into more involvement of this and really try to make this more a full-time thing for me,
Yeah.
because I think it's so key, and there's not enough of us out there, man. I think what you're doing goes along with everything that we need. We need an army of us to help everybody, because everybody needs that guidance, man.
Well, it's so cool that you change the script, right? As you're growing up, you're changing the script, and really, I love your quote in the back, right? Inspiring fathers to be heroes in their children's life. It sounds grand, right?
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. It is grand, but it's not that hard, right?
Right.
Meaning And I say that lightly because I'm a dad of 3 and it's difficult sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
We
But
all we all need our space sometimes, right?
right, but just to be there, and just like you're saying, you're making a presence in their lives wherever you can. You're involving yourself in their lives wherever you can, and that's something that really triggered a thought in me that we always want them in our lives
Yeah.
as we go. We want them to do things with us, but that's not controllable. I mean, I guess when they're really young, you could force them to sit there and be with you,
Yeah.
but as they grow, you can't control that. It's just like any other human that you don't control them, but you're controlling your actions and your thoughts and your presence,
Yeah.
right? And your mindfulness. So you're saying, I'm going to put myself near them and be in their presence so that
Correct.
you're really creating that different thought process of, I'm here for them. Right? And
Yes.
that's something that I take very, very close to heart because I'm still growing, just like you're mentioning, but I'm more and more, I realize my sole purpose is to be here for them and for my
Yeah.
wife. That's my job is to figure out how to not make them happy. That's something I also learned. Like, I'm not here to make you happy,
Yeah.
but I'm here to help you do what you need to do. And maybe you find happiness in that process, but that's something I can't control.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. I think that's a big thing. I mean, we can't control anybody else's actions or feelings. We can influence them, but at the end of the day, it's up to them how they feel and how they
Yeah.
react. That's something I've learned through this journey that I've gone through the past several years. It's not necessarily I was trying to control anybody. It was more so that I was trying to help them. I'm always wanted to help. I'm always wanted to impact, but and I always get, I always like, why don't you just like listen to me for one time? And it's kind of funny because every time I would give some piece of advice down the road, that's exactly what happened.
Right.
They did that, then they end up doing it and it works for them.
Go
But
figure.
me, at the time, you're like, well, you just got to let them figure it out, right? You got to
Right.
let, we got to let our kids fail sometimes. We got to
Yeah.
let our kids figure it out. But be that positive influence as best we can. Be that light for them because I
Yeah.
think, you know, and just being present, like you said, like I think it's huge. It's a huge just impact on everybody's lives, and it just a lot of ways. I think it's just that's the big factor for sure.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, man, 100%. So huge.
Well, take us back a little bit, right? So, unfortunately, you learned real quick in a negative way that you didn't want to be a certain type of father. At 8 years old, your dad leaves.
Yep.
We're going to fast forward a bunch, right? Because obviously we're not going to go year here, but your son is your oldest, right?
My son is my
Most,
oldest. Yep.
yeah. So you learn you're having a child, right? Who are you at that time? Like mentally, physically, who are you? I guess what I'm asking, I always try to look back at who was I when my oldest came here?
Yeah.
Who am I now? Right. And so you start looking at like, I've come a long way here, but I'm also still stubborn and hard headed on this side.
Yeah.
Who was Tyler when you find out you have a child coming for the first time?
I think I was emotionally immature at that time. Just that's the first thing that came to mind. I think I was young. I was 20, 22, 23 when I
Yeah.
had my first kid. So, it's at the same time, like I just got married. We basically had our son right off the bat, and I think it was a shock, right? I think your first kid, you're like, oh my God, I was nervous. It's like,
Yeah.
I remember I was there to tell my family in the sense, like, even though I was married as like, is the right thing to do. I'm like, it was still like, it was kind of one of those things where you're like, oh man, this is actually happening. It's a big event. And
Yeah.
so I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I was learning all the things, at the time, my wife and I were reading um, books of how to parent and all these other
Right.
things. And then I remember asking myself, or just, it's all natural, man. Everything is a natural reaction.
Yeah.
I've always lived, I was raised by the golden rule: treat people how you want to be treated, right? So
Right.
it's just, it's a flow. I think there's not a one size fits all book to how parenting and how fatherhood is going to be. It's a learning process every single day. There's
Yeah.
different things, emotions that come out, especially of our daughters, and I mean, even my son too, where you're just like, all right, how do I figure this out? I don't want to overreact because as a father, I always think back as a kid. How did I feel when my parents kind of treated me with certain situations, right? Or how
Right.
did I do things, how that made me feel. So like I'm like, all right, well, if my son made a mistake, well, I kind of did the same type of stuff when I was a kid. You know what I mean? If you think
Right.
back as parents, we get upset or something at them. If you realize that we've done the same stuff.
Right.
We've done silly stuff. We all do stupid stuff. So we can't overreact to them on that. I think that's parents. Yes, you have to have discipline and you have to have that consistency within the parenting cycle. But as a father, yeah, I think I was emotionally mature. I didn't know what I was doing. I had dogs first. I think we had dogs first. I think that's a good first step. Have
Yeah.
have an animal to understand that you can actually raise something on your
Right.
own away from being a parent. I think that was a step that when we were dating, my wife and I, we had dogs together to
Right.
see how we gelled with that, and it worked. And then, the kids are a different thing, but at the same time, it's similar as they're younger. You just give them attention, give them
Yeah.
love. But man, it was when I look back, it was definitely a time where I definitely was scared. I didn't know what I was doing, but at the same time, I just didn't change who I was per se. I put more emphasis, I think, on spending as much time with them as possible because I think for me, I felt let down from my own father, right? But see, I've always growing up as a kid, how there's certain I'm always the one playing with the younger kids. I was
Mhm.
always the one if we're at a family gathering, I'm always playing with them more so than the older kid. Like my kids my
Yeah.
age or my cousins that were
Right.
old, as old as me. I was always playing with the younger ones and trying to play with them. I don't know what it is, but for me, I just love playing with hanging out with kids and guiding them and teaching them and
Wow.
just, you know, lifting them up. That's why eventually I'll be a coach more so in basketball and things like that to impact
Okay.
kids' lives too. But it's just not the season for that at the moment. But yeah, I think fatherhood, man, it's definitely a scary thing at first.
Yeah.
Um, Even the second time, when I had my daughter Harper, it was adding two to the mix. I mean, it was a scary situation because you're like, oh my gosh, we're adding more chaos to our
Yeah.
lives. You know what I mean? That's kind of ends up what it being. You feel like you're
Yeah.
adding chaos and going through the motions again, but you get more comfortable. You get more of an understanding. Okay, this is what I got to do. You get in a routine. You're not sleeping a whole bunch, obviously, as a
Yeah.
dad when they're young, but um, as you keep adding more, you just get that routine where it's not a big deal, and you're
Yeah.
just giving them love and attention, and you figure it out, right?
Yeah.
That's really all that matters at the end of the day.
Now, talk to us about the second child. So you're having a daughter.
Yeah,
That's to me, that's like starting anew. Now, obviously, as a baby, that's something I learned, right? We all get super scared as the babies come in because we're thinking through all like, what do we do for them? How do we take care of them?
yeah,
Let's face it, like babies are easy compared to now as they start growing up
yeah,
because the needs are pretty basic.
yeah,
But you have your son, you start to build a playbook with him because that's who you have to work with.
yeah.
And then you learn that you're having a daughter. Did that change for you at all? It feels to me like it would, but I talk to many dads now. They're like, that it was just another kid, or like you said, it was just more chaos, and that was the concern, right?
I
I,
mean,
I
it
was
got
that.
harder. I think it definitely put more pressure, not only on our relationship back then, because you're trying to work, you're trying to make money, you're trying to provide, you're trying to do as much as you can because you want to raise your kids to be in a loving home and feel empowered and feel appreciated and all that good stuff. But I would say that it was more pressure than it was kind of chaotic in the first maybe month or so.
Yeah,
But it was also happiness, man. It was one of those things where I'm like, it was blessing. It wasn't negative at all. It's just like you had to figure out. It's like another puzzle you had to figure out,
yeah,
right?
right, yeah,
It's really what it is. It's just another puzzle that you had to solve
yeah,
and put together and mesh it to where you want to make sure the siblings get along, right? My two siblings, they kind of act like my ex-wife and I. So my two kids, the older kids, I mean, they act like my ex-wife. Sorry, I misspoke on that, but uh, they go back and forth with bickering at each other where you see the dynamic of things like that, but you try to raise them as positively as you can, right?
yeah,
And I think they adding the second one created a different dynamic. There's no doubt about it. I think we ended up learning a lot and growing a lot as a family,
mm,
but it certainly didn't create chaos in the sense of like it was overwhelming. It wasn't like it was overwhelming. At first, it was because you're like, oh my gosh, we have two emotional kids. My son was only 2 years old at the time, so he was going through
yeah,
different things, teething and all that stuff, and many different things I remember. But at the same time, I think it was also just amazingly beautiful to say the
yeah,
least. It was one of those things where exactly what I dreamed of as a father, being a father and having a family at the time.
Yeah.
And so it created a lot of, I think back, looking back on it, as far as my side and my perspective, there's things I could have changed. I put a lot of emphasis on my kids more so than maybe my relationship with my wife at the time. I tried to take as much stress off of her. I was trying to be that nurturing mother type because she had a full time job too.
Hmm.
Is really good, but I kind of didn't pay enough attention to her at the time, and I think looking back at that, that created another dynamic. As far as relationship wise, I think a lot of fathers, a lot of men out there have struggles with their relationships with their wives because of that. There's other personalities and other uh, emotions that you have to handle. It's not just one
Yeah.
person. I think that created a lot of friction, a lot of different emotions
Yeah.
and struggles in relationships. I think that's a big factor in lives of families for
Yeah.
sure.
It's definitely a fine line because you have to work at the relationship.
Yes.
But as fathers, you also feel like, well, now this child is here and I have to give her all my attention. Like I have
Yeah.
to, right? So your brain is like, aside from the protection and the and provider and all those things,
Hmm.
you all of a sudden may get off balance on that fine line. I think we go a little bit to the right as far as where the kids are. Like, oh, I just got to put all my effort into the kids. And to your point, you're also trying to, or you're thinking that is also helping your wife. So I'll just take care of this and we're good. But
Right.
that fine line I found. So I've been married for 22 years now.
Man, that's
And
awesome.
well, we're learning and growing there too, right? So we're learning and
You
growing as
always are,
fathers,
man. You
and
always
we're
are.
learning and growing there. But one thing I really found, and it took a while because it's a process, but I'm not doing things for her per se. What I started learning is I'm doing things for our relationship, which is a different thing in the sense that I want to work on our relationship. I want to put her first in
Right.
certain situations and do the things that our relationship, as we've built it, needs. Obviously, I do things for her. So people out there are going to be like, oh, he doesn't do anything for me. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the focus in my experience has been more, all right, this is what our relationship needs. And it may need this week, maybe she needs more attention because there's something going on.
Sure.
Other weeks, it's not so much that, it's more taking some things off her plate. So it's a very fluid process.
Yep.
But when I started to really learn and work on myself, as you mentioned, and as we haven't really gone into, but that's a huge portion of what you do, getting fathers
Yeah.
to work on themselves. As I started doing that and learning how much I need to take on myself,
Yep.
then that really started to come into play. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. I think working on yourself, that's something, and I've always tried to work on myself over the years. It's not that I think the dynamic, for example, in my relationship with my ex-wife really changed when I was really focused on working on myself. I went to a conference in Florida. It was a real estate conference because I'm in real estate as an investor. So I went to a conference and I learned a lot. I learned about self development. I found a mentor and the importance of self development and learning that you got to keep learning, keep growing, keep finding new in reading. I never, as a kid, I hated reading. Like, I
Right.
absolutely hated it. My stepfather would tell me, read this book and I'll pay you $5 if you read it in the summer. And I'm like, I don't want to. It was the Hardy Boys. I remember specifically, he tried to get me to read the Hardy Boys books. I don't know if you remember those, but and I'm like, I just don't, I have no interest.
Yeah.
Did not want to do it. So for the longest time, like I just despised reading. I despised learning in the
Yeah.
sense of that at school, I was more of an average kid student wise. I didn't put the emphasis on that to where it just didn't suit me. It didn't excite me to do it. And not to say I don't see it as importance because I do. I think
Yeah.
school is important for our children, but I think it's also one of those things where every kid learns differently, right? And I think in a relationship where self development, I started focusing on self development maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, to where I was starting to read a lot of books.
Mm.
I had goals, I had aspirations. For the first time in my life, I was like, let's do this. Like, I
Mhm.
just got into real estate investing like 7 years ago. I was like, I'm excited to do this. Like, this is a passion. I want to create a passive income for my family. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to be around high positive people. And I think that put a wrinkle because I was trying to grow and
Mm.
she wasn't ready. She didn't know that version of me. She just knew one version of me. You know, I think
Right. Yeah.
as relationships, if your partner doesn't understand what you're doing and
Hmm.
what you want to get to and doesn't want to ride with you on that journey, then that's where things are going to cause friction. So
Right.
I was always trying to find different ways for us to do it together, and it just didn't work out at that
Mm.
time. You know, but self-development for me, I think that I needed that personally because
Right.
I was going through I felt like I was in a rut. Felt like
Right.
I was, you know, yes, I was a present father, but I didn't feel like I had enough at that time. I didn't feel like
Mm.
I was enough of a person. I had more to offer in life than what I was giving. You know what I mean? Than just
Yeah.
being a father and a husband at the time. I felt like I had to do more with my life to serve other people. And I guess I had a chip on my shoulder to prove everybody else wrong that I can do it. You know, I've always had that thing where I've always been doubted as a person. I've always been kind of shy and I've been bullied when I was younger too. So I just didn't know how to handle those certain emotions. And self development is one of those things I think is so vital for us because if you don't know who you are in your own self and you don't know your worth, I really believe that you're missing out on the point of life because
Mm.
you have to realize that we as people should be our best selves and find our best selves and find our best versions of ourselves.
Mm.
And if we're not doing that, then you're not going to be happy for your family. You're not going to be the right father for your kids. You're not going to be a present father at all. You're just going to be emotionless and
Hmm.
you're going to be lost.
Yeah.
And not to say I haven't been lost even recently. I've had
Right.
my challenges where I've had to fight through certain things, but self-development, getting in the gym, reading, walking in the mornings, that's one of my routines. I get out in the sun, take a 30-minute walk every morning and really just get out and just kind of breathe. You know, you got to breathe it out. Right now my goal has been, you know, like 500 push-ups a day. That's something I do. I try to
Hmm.
get in, just get that mental workout. I think I went to a conference last week. Um, it was amazing. Michael Burnoff current conference, super amazing about communication. I think how we talk to ourselves
Hmm.
and how we really put out there what we want. If you talk negatively to yourself and not, you know, it's a big thing on self development. You have to talk positive about yourself. You have to tell yourself you can do it. You have to have faith in your own self. And a lot of us put a lot of limiting beliefs on ourselves every day as men. I think we think that we're not good enough. I think we don't matter, and it's so far from the truth because
Right.
everybody on this planet that's living and gets another day to live is so important because we all have a purpose. You just have to keep searching for it.
Yeah. There's also, as always, dichotomies everywhere, right? And I
Yeah,
think the self development could become a problem if we're doing it for the wrong reasons.
sure.
Because self development, it sounds great, and I mean, it is great actually. It's gotten us where we are in doing this, right? Um, I knew a guy that was so deep into self development, but it was at the expense of everything else.
You have
So
to
like
have
I'm gonna spend 2 hours at the gym. I'm going to, kill it at work. Family gets whatever's left, this much, and then I make sure I'm getting my 8 9 hours of sleep. I mean, it was so regimented, but it wasn't. Maybe this is just my opinion. I should probably say that, right? This is just outside looking in. The regiment wasn't in benefit of others or his family particularly, right?
right.
Super engulfed in like, I'm gonna self develop. I'm gonna be the best at this and that, and it's like these are all great, but at
Yeah,
what purpose and at what cost?
yeah,
And that's something that I at first struggled with.
sure.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be disciplined doing this and this and this, and I'm gonna show my girls that this is what needs to happen in your life to be better. I started to do it at the expense of time with my kids or at the expense of time at home. And luckily, I think for me, I started to see it from the outside in as well. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Taking all this time to self develop, but for what? I'm developing for them. I need to be better for myself so that I can be better for them. But I wasn't bringing that in. So, super important that we mentioned that because as I've followed you, you just mentioned today before we hit record, you go to the gym and your daughters are with you at the gym,
Yeah,
right? And they're watching you develop and they're watching you take care of yourself. And I think they're picking up the importance of what you're trying to put out. Hey, it's important to take care of yourself and be healthy
Yeah,
and be
my son, I mean, I get him same thing. All my kids, I get them to the gym and get them knowing that how important it is.
right,
You know, it's so vital to get in the gym, to get that exercise, get your body moving. If you're not
right,
moving your body, you're basically just dying inside, really. I mean, our bodies are not meant to sit still for long periods of time. People when they work at 9 to 5s or something, you're you feel like crap the whole day if you are
yeah,
sitting in front of a computer screen, sitting down, not moving. Like when I'm on the phone, talking on the phone, I'm literally walking miles. Like I've literally walked about. I have to move when I'm
yeah,
talking. Even right now, it's hard to sit and talk. I'd love to be moving right now. Like that's why I move my hands and all that because I don't
yeah,
like. It's something that I like to be active and talking and just moving your body. It's
yeah,
so key to developing yourself, but also releasing all those endorphins that you have and
yeah,
releasing that stress because anxiety and stress it's always going to be there, but it's really only going to be there if you make it be there. If you're intentional about knowing what your body needs and knowing what your mind needs and your brain, and you're putting good food in your body and putting good
right,
fuel, like I think that's where you're going to succeed to where and it doesn't have to be every single day because we all have things that come up, kid stuff, and if you can't beat yourself up on that either. You got to be
yeah,
able to understand that it's not an every single day thing. And I think that where you're talking about the balance thing, where you get so into self development, and I'm going to do this routine every single day. It doesn't happen that way. It's like if it does, then you're sacrificing. You're right. You're sacrificing your entire
yeah,
family and other people involved, and you're just being selfish at that point, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, life gets in the way, right? And they are part of whatever that life is. I've really learned that. I used to kind of get irritated before where I was like, oh, man, I'm not getting my workout in. Seriously? Like that would irritate me. But then, yes, I need my workout. Trust me. We were talking before we hit record. My wife will tell me sometimes, hey, just go work out. You're being a diva.
I
Just
love
go
that,
work
man.
out.
That's so key.
Right. But now it's like, well, I didn't get my workout early enough. That's on me. Now these things came up. Now we're taking care of these things. It is what it is. We're
Yeah,
moving on because life gets in the way. And again, for me, learning that about myself is learning that I could get regimented and start to do it for the wrong reasons.
yeah,
I want to be fit and I want to be healthy and I want to do all those things for my girls, but it can't be at their expense. Right.
correct.
And that's something that I learned from Jocko Willing from his book. You can't make more than 24 hours. But you can
Nope.
pick up the extra hours early because then everybody's asleep. So that's where I've kind of gotten to where if I didn't do the workup early and now, my 4-year-old needs something from me, it's her time. It's not my time now. Right. And I
Exactly
should
how
have
I
done it
act too.
early.
Yep.
So it's really become, uh, and I really like how you are showing because they do what they see, not
Yep.
what we say. That's something
Correct.
I've learned
Yes.
empirically now. It's just like,
Oh my gosh, you could repeat 5 things or same thing 5 times to them, and
no matter.
it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, man.
And now with my 13-year-old, not only will it not matter, they'll be like, yeah, but you did this. I was like, oh, dang it. And so
Yeah,
now there's this mirror in front of you. You're just like, yep,
they
that's
call you out now. You
every
can't
time, man.
you can't hide it anymore. When they're
That's right.
young, you get away with things like that, but not when they're getting older.
No,
They call you out on your stuff, and they see through you like a mirror, exactly, man.
right away.
They really do. But they keep you accountable at the same time, right? And that's the beauty of our children. They keep you accountable, especially daughters, man. Like I don't know about you. Obviously, your daughters do the same, but my daughters, like my 10-year-old, she just tells me straight up, whatever it is, and I'm like, "You're right, you're right. I gotta hold
Yeah.
myself accountable on that." I think as primarily I'm a girl dad. I need that. I've had a role model. My mom was my role model growing up, and the sense of like I need that guidance. I need that accountability part from the women's side. I think it's huge. I think that's a big thing. So
That's hard because they poke at the ego, right? Like my daughters are so quick to that too. Like you told me you were gonna do this and now you didn't. And I'll just sit there and it pokes at your ego a little bit because you're like, you're a child. Like, seriously, you can't tell me that. But you can't do that because then you're teaching them something that you don't want them to learn.
exactly right. And to be honest with you, I think our kids they look at things in a lot different light than we do,
Yeah.
and more of a simple fact in terms and bring us back down to our standards, right? I think they
Yeah.
do that to us. They know who we are inside. they've noticed they know us better than
Right.
most, right? So I think we kind of get our egos a little bit blown up. And, oh, we're bigger than them, but we're older than them, we're wiser
Right.
than them. But in the reality of it, I think they understand us more than most, and I think they realize if we're not
Yeah.
doing the right thing or if we're not following through with our word, then we deserve to be called out at that time, man. I think that's the beauty of having children too is
Yeah.
they're just the mini people of us,
Yeah.
and they believe that we could be better, and I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. I take that as a compliment because
Yeah.
at least they're paying attention, right? There's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
children I think that don't pay attention to their parents and their fathers or mothers or whatever. They just don't pay attention to them because they don't care to respect them. Our kids are calling us out and communicating with us. I think that's a good safety play for them. Like I think that makes them feel safe around us.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest win for me, man. As long as if your kids are wanting to have you hug them and love them and talk with them, and life isn't any better than that. Right? I really believe that right there is what because you only get them for really 18 years, right?
Right.
And that right there, if we're able to provide um, a life for them in those 18 years, and then they want to communicate and talk with us
Yeah.
afterwards, like that's the goal. That's the goal for all of us parents, and it flies by. Obviously, yours is 13, mine's 12, and soon enough they're going to be driving.
Dude.
I remember when I was 16, I wasn't home a lot.
Yep.
Most of the time, I was out wanting to be with friends and hang out, do all these other things, and try to make my own version of my life. But I always knew I had my parents to go back to, my
Right.
mom to go back to for sure, and whenever I needed her, and I still to this day have that. So I'm grateful for that because it's a safe place for me. It's a safe place for my own well being as a father, as a parent, for my children to hold me accountable when they need to,
Yeah.
especially daughters.
Well, and it's interesting too because you as an adult right now, like I think you'll agree with me on this. The quickest way to lose respect for someone is hypocrisy,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, 100%,
But
man.
but how many times do we get caught in that aspect with our kids, right? I told you to do this, but I'm doing the opposite, or I'm doing the thing I told you not to do. And
Right.
it's just his hypocrisy. And
Right. Yeah,
you and
100%.
I wouldn't stand for it because we're adults. We're in the workplace. We're like, oh, that dude. I don't
Yeah,
care what position you're at. You're not. I'm not listening to you. Like
yeah,
this hypocrisy is killing me, right? And then we come home, and if you allow yourself to do that,
yeah,
I mean, just like you said, your kids are seeing it at a literal level.
yeah.
So that's a literal level of hypocrisy as well.
It really is, man, and that's one of the reasons why I have built this brand because I think it holds me accountable too. Seeing different variations of different content that's out there, the messages I portray, like I want to continue to live by those messages. Those are coming from my heart. Those aren't just AI generated
Right.
messages that are just to put a content out there. Those are authentic me. Like that's what I wanted to have because whatever feelings I'm having right then or that day or that week or whatever, that's the type of content I want to put out because I think people want to see real people and none of us all have a great situation every day and we have our struggles and ups and downs, but at the end of the day, it's just a matter of authenticity and just really being the best version of yourself. That's the key, man.
Well, hey, man, I know we're getting close on time here and you got to get going. Tell us where we can find Tyler on the social media. Tell us about your podcast and let's just get some information out there. And I'll make sure to put all those links in the show notes as we close out.
Yeah, man. Right now, I'm primarily on Instagram, Inspiring Father. That's primarily where I'm at. I keep telling it, and this is something I got to stay accountable on. But working on that is getting the YouTube channel going more so on the podcast stuff.
Mm.
But yes, I do have a podcast, Inspiring Father. It's all everywhere except for Apple. I don't think I have the Apple side, but yeah, man, it's more. I'm pretty much on Instagram strictly posting there, and my content's on there. So.
I can tell you, just as you mentioned, my platform keeps me honest and on my feet because so many times I'll do something or say something that's like, that's not what I'm trying to build, right? Like
Yeah,
I made a mistake and I'm keeping myself honest. But also the stuff that you're putting out is consistently a reminder of like, oh damn, what he just said right there, either I did it and it was a negative or I did it and it was a positive. So I can give myself a win. So thank you very much for putting that stuff out there. And as you mentioned, that authenticity really comes across, man.
Appreciate
As
that.
I read your messages and as I try to internalize them, it's helped me to look inside and make sure that I'm being the best version of myself for my girls. So
I love that, man. I'm grateful for hearing that, man. I really am. Some days I don't know what I'm doing or who I'm impacting, but it's good to hear that it's hitting someone someday. And just that's all my goal is, to impact one person a day if I could. And that's
yeah,
all it is.
well, it definitely is doing that, and I think the community's starting to build that up too. And I can't wait to put your episode out to the daughter community and be able to mash our pathways together as we did today. So thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate you having me, brother.
Absolutely. I suspect and I hope that this won't be the first and only time we get on the
No,
platform.
man, I'm going to have you on mine as well. You're going to have to get on my podcast here. Time
And
to
if you're trying to do a YouTube channel, this face may not help you,
Oh,
but I'll do whatever you need.
It's gonna get me viral right there. We're gonna go viral there, brother.
I think you might be mistaken there, sir.
Got to show those guns a little bit too.
Yeah, right.
Right.
All right, brother. Hey, thanks again for your time. Thank you all for listening. Adam, you're the man, and I can't wait to get back on here and run it back.
Appreciate you, brother.
Later, man. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want more of the Daughter Podcast, please go to www.daughterpodcast.com. There, you'll be able to find the podcast in all the platforms. You'll also be able to chat with us, send us your thoughts, and shout out a dad that is killing it and someone we can learn from, share their story and why they deserve recognition. And I would love to shout them out during the show in one of our episodes as the season goes on. Additionally, you will be able to find all of our social media information from our Instagram, Facebook, and also our YouTube and any other news on this site. Thank you all for your constant support and for listening and watching the Daughter Podcast.